Good morning and happy Friday. Congratulations, you and I have both made it to Friday, which is always a great thing. I wanted to put together a quick video and talk about kind of all of, I guess, the social media talk that's been going around with the chance of snow or some kind of wintry precipitation along the eastern half of the country going into next week, especially this time of the year. I know these things get a lot of social media buzz. So, my goal today is to walk you through it with a sensible approach and kind of just look at all the possibilities, but more importantly, the most likely um, thing that I think will happen. And, hopefully by the end of this, you learn something. So, to start, if you're new here, my name is Gerald. I am a meteorology student at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. I'm only a freshman right now, but I just finished up first semester. So, that's a little bit of background about me. If you like these kind of videos, I do more of these, and I plan on doing more in the future, especially going into 2023. And I also do photography and storm chasing, and a lot of drone photography videos on my channel, but I also do just normal photography if you want to check that out on all my social media platforms, which are linked on my channel page here. So I guess that's enough blabbing on about me. Let's go ahead and start talking about next week. So what I want to start with here is looking at the Climate Prediction Center's prediction for just overall temperatures next week compared to average. This is for the 6 to 10 day period, and as you can see, we're pretty confident that it is going to be well below average on the eastern half of the country. Once you get into these really dark blues, you really start getting to 80 to 90 to even close to 100% confidence that it will be below normal in these areas. So that's for 6 to 10 days. So that goes from next Wednesday all the way to Christmas Day, and then on the 8 to 14 day outlook, as you can see, that kind of continues and then just works its way further southeast into the Carolinas and kind of Tennessee River Valley. So we feel very confident about the fact that we will have plenty cold enough temperatures on the eastern half of the country to produce some kind of winter weather. Now the big question mark still is precipitation. Looking at the 6 to 10 day outlook, and again, this is going to be the same time frame as this map for temperatures. This is for precipitation. And as you can see here, again, this is kind of where we start to get the question mark. We show above average potential, mainly in the Northeast and part of the coastal Carolina region and coastal Mid-Atlantic. But again, I think the biggest area right now that you really have that question mark is going to be further to the west here in the Southeast, really from Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee. That is the biggest area right now that I think we may struggle to get enough precipitation overlapping if you're looking for some kind of winter weather in the Southeast. And that continues on the 8 to 14 day map as well. So, some good news. The Weather Prediction Center has now outlined a lot of areas in the chance for, I guess, this is kind of their winter storm map, probability map. This is the chance of exceeding a quarter of an inch equivalent of snow or sleet. So, if you have a quarter of an inch of rain, converting that to snow or sleet. And as you can see, they've now added some areas here along the eastern half of the United States and even going as far south as part of the Carolinas and North Georgia, down through Nashville and Knoxville, even clips part of northeastern Alabama there. Again, this is kind of the climatologically speaking suspect areas here along and north of I-85 in the Carolinas into the Appalachian chain going into Georgia and Alabama, and then of course Tennessee. So areas further south, I know Atlanta, Columbia, Birmingham, a lot of snow lovers there that may not like this map too much right now. But again, it's 7 days out, so don't read too much into this. But I think it shows a pretty good area to look out for. And then this goes further up into the Northeast as well, where you're starting to even get 30 to 50% probability of exceeding a quarter of an inch equivalent of snow or sleet compared to the liquid amounts going up here into the Alleghenies and Poconos and even into New York. So that is a good step in the right direction to see this added onto the map. So now that we've kind of looked at all of the thoughts from the National Weather Service and Weather Prediction Center, let's go ahead and dive into some models here. We'll start with the GFS. I'm going to show all of the 0Z runs just so we can match it up with the the EPS and the GEFS because the 6Z hasn't run of the GFS ensembles yet, so we'll just keep this all at 0Z. So starting out with the GFS, of course we have that system that moved through the Mid-Atlantic yesterday and just really produced a lot of ice here into Virginia and into the parts of the Northeast, and even some snow. I think some areas passed half a foot of snow up in New York and Pennsylvania. So we'll go ahead and move this ahead. As you can see, that's going to slowly work its way through the Northeast over the next 48 hours. And overall, pretty clear weather throughout the eastern half of the country here. And that's going to continue until we start to get into early next week. And I should add, as you can see here with this high pressure, I'll circle it right here for you. This is going to be coming down from Canada, and this is going to be helping to produce relatively cold air throughout much of the eastern United States, which is kind of the main ingredient here that's going to set the stage as we looked at the very first map. We feel very confident that we're going to get that cold air to move into the eastern half of the United States. And as you can see here, this is again the GFS. Starting to get some low pressure to form over here and some Gulf moisture to be advected northward, producing some rainfall here into southwest Texas and even some snow back over Missouri, Kansas, and other parts of the Midwest into Iowa. So we'll go ahead and move this forward a little bit. And as you can see, the slow pressure kind of begins to dive down into the Gulf. And generally, this is a good sign to see if you want snow in the southeast. But this is kind of really just the appetizer to what could be on the way to the region here. As you can see, the main problem here with this low is it just stays a little too far south and doesn't really get enough precipitation over the areas that have the cold air to produce much of anything. And this is going to be next Tuesday, I should add. So I'm just going to get a sounding here of near Greenville, Spartanburg. Again, pretty cold temperatures here. Not quite cold enough for snow, but 39 degrees with maybe some light precipitation going into late Tuesday into early Wednesday, potentially. There is the timing. So we'll go ahead and move this further ahead. That kind of begins to move off, and then what you begin to get here is super cold high pressure from Canada working its way down, and that's going to create a pretty massive and strong cold front here. And while we have this, we're likely going to get low pressure to develop somewhere along this cold front. And if we move this further ahead in time, you can see that that low pressure begins to form. And the big question is where, and we'll get to that here in a minute. I don't want to spend too much time though, so we'll just kind of move ahead here. Again, this is the GFS. As you can see, you can get that low pressure to finally form here into the southeastern United States over Georgia and South Carolina. If we keep moving this ahead of time, you can see that that eventually moves up the eastern seaboard. So again, this is just one model projection, but the overall pattern is one I feel pretty confident in seeing very strong high pressure moving into the central United States and a very strong cold front. The biggest question still is, can we get a low to form here and ride like this, or are we going to get a low here that then kind of cuts up the Appalachian chain, or maybe even neither of those? Maybe the low forms somewhere else and takes a path different from one of those two. So that's the GFS. We'll go ahead and look at the Euro now, which overall, again, shows the same idea. We're going to get this system to kind of start to move in Tuesday, getting a little too far south for much of anything. And then as we go further out, same story. Big Canadian high pressure here, dives southward into the plains. Excuse me. Dive south into the plains there. Didn't want to do that either. Sorry. And you get low pressure to form. Now on the Euro here, compared to the GFS, you get the low pressure to form up here, which is not what you want if you want to see snow in the southeast. You really want a lot closer to what the GFS had, and you want to get a low to form down here and then work its way up on a Miller A kind of track. So again, very different here than the GFS. We'll go ahead and finish this out. You get that low to eventually phase off the eastern seaboard and then kind of, cut up into New England and produce a good amount of snow, mainly for, more of the Ohio Valley and pretty far north into New England and the Mid-Atlantic there. So Again, you can see some pretty massive differences there between the GFS and Euro, and of course, this is still a week out, so you're going to see that. The next thing I want to show here, sorry, if I can get this to stay. Okay. Next thing I want to show here is a map that's going to show you the chance of exceeding 1-inch snowfall from the ensemble members. So these are all of the different runs that go together to make the GFS and the Euro each, and it shows what they think the potential is to see an inch of snow. So we'll start this at next Wednesday, and this is in a 24-hour period, so I should add that it's over a 24-hour span. So this does a lot better job than just showing overall, because that's going to add up all the totals from days prior. So this is Wednesday. As you can see, you get a little bit of a spike from, yeah, we'll leave it there at 114 hours. So this is Tuesday, Tuesday afternoon. We get a little bit of a spike here. And again, this correlates with the low pressure moving through here. But again, it's really nothing off the chart here. These are numbers that are not even 5%. Where we really see that spike is moving forward here. And I don't think I added this. This is the GFS ensemble members, so the GEFS. You really get that spike, though, right about here. So this is going into Friday the 23rd, Friday afternoon. And again, nothing crazy off the charts here, but for a week out in the southeast, this is definitely something you want to watch. But you're getting numbers really 15 to 20% here along the foothills and even into the Piedmont of South Carolina, especially North Carolina, with the main bullseye here really being over the Appalachian chain, going into West Virginia and North Carolina. And then, those probabilities even push up pretty far into New York and Pennsylvania. So this is the GEFS. Again, not off the charts, but you get a pretty good idea of kind of a general line along I-20 northbound of about 10 to 20% probabilities of seeing an inch of snow from the ensemble members. So let's go ahead and look at the same map, but for the Euro ensemble members, so the EPS. Again, you get a little bit of a spike here going into next Tuesday, Wednesday. If we're lucky enough to maybe get some of that precipitation to overlap over the cold air in the mountains, maybe you can see just a couple flakes fall, but nothing crazy. And we're going to move this now onto the main storm. And again, this is the EPS. This is next Friday. We'll stop the map right. Be easier probably if I do it this way. Yeah, there we go. Again, kind of same story, similar probabilities. You're getting about 14, 15% in Charlotte, about 12% at GSP. Going further south into Columbia, you're still hitting about 10% here on the Euro ensembles, and then a lot less further back to the west. And I'll talk about why I think that is and why I'd be a little bit more concerned in kind of these areas about getting anything from this system. And again, these probabilities kind of run up the I-85 and I-95 corridors with a pretty big bullseye here over, once again, really the mountains of West Virginia and Pennsylvania here with the EPS. And again, the EPS had that, or the Euro deterministic, I should say, had that low pressure forming really all the way over here. So you would expect the higher potential further north. All right, so the next thing I want to show is kind of the overall pattern that we're looking at with this in terms of the jet stream. This is the EPS. So again, this is the Euro ensembles and what they kind of think the jet stream will look like. And this is at, let's go, yeah, right here. Now this is Friday morning, and this is a pretty good look. If you want snow in the southeast, this is a very good look to get with the jet stream. So what this is kind of showing is cold air in this region with a general storm track of, well, that's probably a little generous, with the general storm track of this. And again, these are all the ensemble members of the Euro. But again, a really good pattern here, and we kind of see the same thing here with the GEFS, which are the GFS ensemble members. Again, same pattern. So the models are agreeing pretty well on, again, this pattern of getting cold air to sink south with a general storm track in the area. So now that we've looked at that, kind of the last map I want to look at, and then I'll do one last little overview at the end, is the MSLP members for both of these ensembles for the EPS and the GEFS. So what this shows is what all the ensembles think, or where all the ensembles think there will be the low pressure and the high pressure. Of course, this is very important in determining where you're going to get that precipitation overlap into the colder air. So we'll start with the Euro ensembles again. And as you can see, the Euro here, this is that first little system that doesn't do much, kind of moves out. And then you get ensemble members agreeing very well on high pressure and a cold front setting up shop right here. Now with the Euro, you're seeing clusters of low pressure here and here on its ensemble. That's not really the best look to get snow in the southeast. Again, like the as we looked with the snow probabilities, you're really going to want to be in this area to get snow from that kind of setup. Again, this is the Euro. We'll look at the GFS as well on the same kind of map here. Again, great agreement, big high pressure, big cold front setting up shop. And with the GEFS ensemble members, you mainly get a lot of these low pressure systems to form right in this region and then work their way up the East Coast. But something you notice on both of these is you're not really getting low pressure to form back here, which could be pretty problematic if you want to see snow in northern Alabama, northern Georgia, even really a lot of South Carolina, up in like this general area. You really want low pressure to form further back to the east. So that's something I'm going to watch over time. We'll see if maybe we can get the low pressure to form a little further back east over the Gulf, and that would really help out areas of South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama. Again, right now, not the most favorable, but all things considered, for it to be this time of year, this is a great pattern. We couldn't really ask for much better. A statistic I liked a lot that I'll give credit to Brad Panovich. He, I guess, went digging for the numbers, but it's actually been 70 degrees more often in Charlotte than it's snowed. So either way, we'll be lucky enough to have a cold Christmas. It'll feel a little more, I guess, like the Hallmark movies you see. Which is always a fun thing to see. But again, that's all I've really got for today. This is just kind of the overall thing, and we're still a week out. I'll continue to update you. I'll try to get a video out, hopefully maybe once a day. If it gets super crazy, maybe even a morning video and a night video. But right now, if you're sitting on the eastern side of the U.S., definitely one of the better chances compared to some of the past Christmases to see snow. If I had to pick somewhere to be right now, it would honestly probably be here in the Appalachians. West Virginia, Virginia. I think right now that's probably the safest bet to see snow. But again, to conclude, if you enjoyed the video, I'd love for you to subscribe, like the video, maybe share it with your friends if they're also curious about what kind of potential we have here next week for snow. And if you want to see more updates, I post on my Twitter, Instagram, which again, those are all linked here on my channel page. So hope everyone has a wonderful Friday and a safe weekend.